Hello, everybody. I'm going to talk to you today a bit more about why CDP disclosures are scored, how you can interpret your score, and then I will hand over to Michelle Cushman from First Carbon Solutions on how you can get feedback on your score. So let's first at why CDP scores disclosures. Well, in fact, we should consider who gets to see the scores. So when you respond to CDP, you only respond once. And whether you are invited to respond by an investor authority or a customer authority in the supply chain program, you will only have to fill in the questionnaire once, and that information will be shared to multiple requesting members. So it saves you time having to respond to lots of individual requests. That score is the same for both programs, and it will be shared with the requesting members because it provides a useful summary of your CDP response and your performance in the CDP response. So, if you're a supplier, then the score which you receive helps you understand your overall performance on climate change and if you're improving. You can benchmark yourself against the average performance of your sector or in the region which you operate in. It shows you where you might be able to improve and helps you communicate your achievements both externally and internally within your own organisation. For the supply chain program, this helps them understand the overperformance of a specific supplier and if they are improving. They benchmark the performance of all their suppliers together and track a rate of improvement, and they can identify the leaders from their own suppliers. The scoring process has some features which distinguishing it from other sustainability ratings. In the climate change program, the supply chain program, it uniquely looks in depth at climate change related data points. The scoring is completely independent. It's done by partner organisations who are trained up by CDP. First Carbon Solutions is the main scoring partner for the supply chain program. If you also participate in the investor program, then you may have been scored by a different scoring partner. All the scoring partners are trained up by CDP in the same way, and we have a quality assurance process which checks around 5% of the responses to ensure that the methodology is applied in the same way by all of the different scoring partners. CDP scoring methodology is also comparable. It's the same for all sectors and all countries. The same key actions need to be demonstrated, the same information needs to be provided. So it provides a useful benchmark where you can compare different companies. Transparent. The full guidance to our questionnaire, which assists you in responding to it, and the scoring methodology, which is the same document that the scorers use, is available online on our website. We also provide additional webinars and explanations to help responders. It's a very wide-reaching process. This year, we scored over 5,500 companies for disclosure and performance, and it's also very influential. For the investor program, we publish scores on Google Finance and the Deutsche Börse website, and everything in the supply chain program is made available to members on the CDP website. To interpret your score. Well, let's look at what the score consists of, first of all. There are two parts to the CDP score: disclosure score, which is a number. In fact, that's a percentage, with 1 being the lowest and 100 being the highest, and a performance score, which is a letter band. The disclosure score is the comprehensiveness and completeness of the CDP response. So it looks at your ability to manage data, your understanding of climate change issues, and your overall transparency. The performance score measures specific actions to do with climate change mitigation and adaptation. received your score mail out, you should have seen something like this. So the climate change disclosure score, you can on the right side here, will benchmark against the CDP supply chain average, and there are also category scores just below this, which break down that overall score into different focus areas, grouping together different questions from the questionnaire by theme. The disclosure score. Well, we consider that a low disclosure score is under 50. So that represents a limited or restricted ability to measure and disclose climate-related risks, opportunities, and overall carbon emissions. A disclosure score in the range of 50 to 70 shows an increased understanding of the measurement of company-specific risks and opportunities related to climate change. Where a disclosure score, something which is over 70, shows that senior management is beginning to understand business issues related to climate change and build climate change-related risks and opportunities into the core of the business. Performance score is shown as a letter band, of which there are 5, from which is the highest, down to E, which is the lowest. There's also an A- band, which represents a high overall score as a percentage, which is how the performance score is initially calculated, but a failure to receive points for one of the obligatory items in the performance scoring. That's verification, being a high rate of emission reductions as reported at 12.1A, and having a public disclosure. So what does the performance band look like? Well, the lowest band is for a initial percentage performance score of the 20%, which has little evidence of initiatives on carbon management or the action is in the initial stages. At D, from 20 to 40%, there is a limited amount of evidence of mitigation and adaptation initiatives with limited strategy on climate change. Band E, which is 40 to 60%, there's some activity on climate change and a varied level of integration of that activity in strategy. Band E, from 60 to 85, integration of climate change is recognised as a priority for strategy, but perhaps all initiatives are not quite fully established. Whereas the highest band, band A or A-, a score of greater than 85%, climate change is fully integrated into the business strategy, driving significant reductions in emissions from deliberate climate change initiatives. And the score is broken down into categories which are groups of questions to allow you to identify which focus areas are your areas of strength and where you might be able to improve. So these categories are governance and strategy, risk and opportunity management, verification, and emissions management. Same for both disclosure and performance, and are the same as the categories for 2014. Governance and strategy brings together those questions which deal with how climate change is managed within your organisation and the different initiatives you are involved in, for example, emissions trading, engagement with your value chain, and use of carbon credits, as well as what level climate change is managed within your organisation. Opportunity management looks at your reporting of risks and opportunities related to climate change, and also the questions on risk management processes. Verification relates to verification of your scope 1, 2, and 3 emissions, as well as the question on whether you verify any other carbon-related information. Emissions management covers both the questions where you're asked to report your emissions and to the emissions methodology that determine how you calculated the figures. Okay, I'll just run through some tips on how you can best make use of the scoring methodology. I mentioned earlier, it's available on our website. just go to the Reporting to CDP section at the top and find the link to the scoring methodology in the drop-down menu. The methodology is quite a long document. It covers each possible question route which you might find in the questionnaire. For more information on the question routes, you can look at the guidance document, which is also available on the Reporting to CDP page. There's a column for the questions on the left-hand side. You'll then find the disclosure scoring criteria in the middle columns, and on the right, the performance scoring criteria. The score is calculated as a numerator and a denominator. So there's a number of points available for each question, and then the numerator determines how many you will be awarded. For question 1.1a here, 1 point will be awarded if your text answer shows the job title of the individual who has responsibility for climate change. And there are 2 performance points available if it's demonstrated that that person is senior level within the organisation. Some general tips when you're thinking about your response for next year. For each question, make sure that you read the relevance part of both the guidance document and the scoring methodology. They will tell you what data points the scorer is looking for and help you to answer the question fully. The guidance document also has lots of useful information for how you can get information together to be able to respond to the CDP questionnaire. For scoring, avoid leaving questions blank, because a blank answer is interpreted as either choosing to not disclose information or not having information available. They're scored for 0 out of the maximum available points for the question. We'll only refer to information provided in the CDP response. Won't look at any external information or links provided. And also information referring to other questions by cross-referencing within the questionnaire will not be scored. Finally, when you are responding to the questionnaire, make sure that you choose the question route which is most relevant to you and not necessarily the longest route. Answering more questions doesn't get you more points, and it might just increase the difficulty for you in gathering the information together. Okay, that is all for me for now, and I will hand over to Michelle Karchman, who's going to tell you a bit more about how you can get an individual feedback call.
Thank you very much, Esther. And you could pass over the presenter rights. That would be wonderful.
I will do so. Just 1 minute.
Thanks. And well, again, appreciate everybody's attention and spend a few more minutes on what available services you have and provide a little bit more insight into the Scores for Supply Chain program this year. So very quickly, First Carbon Solutions has been the exclusive supply chain scoring partner for CDP for the past 5 years, and we are also the scoring partner for the major investor regions. Since started working with CDP, we have scored over 15,600 disclosures and have conducted over 1,000 performance review calls, and I'll talk a little bit more about those performance review calls in a few minutes. We are also a gold consultancy partner and a silver software partner. So, right into it, where are your customers focusing their supply chain engagement efforts? Well, firstly, they are very focused on getting more suppliers to respond. Not only are they asking year over year for more suppliers to respond, but working with their supply chain to be able to increase the response rate. This year, over 4,000 companies have responded to CDP's supply chain program. As you can see, since 2009, that number has increased year over year. And they're encouraging suppliers to improve their disclosure scores. This year, the average disclosure score for the supply chain program was a 60, which was an increase from last year, 2014. And finally, and most importantly, collaborating with suppliers to improve performance. This year's average is a D. So the average overall supply chain score for 2015 is a 60D, As you can see, performance went down from 2014 to 2015, which, as Esther mentioned earlier, a D indicates that there's limited evidence and minimal climate change strategy. So certainly an area of improvement for the supply chain community. However, again, suppliers are working with their customers to be able to improve performance and disclosure year over year. Suppliers receiving relatively lower scores. And when you compare the supply chain program to the investor program, on average, overall, the supply chain performance on disclosure and a performance band is lower than investor-led. And so why is that? Well, we recognize that there's a limited understanding of the CDP requirements. And again, as Esther mentioned earlier, the methodology is on CDP's website, and suppliers are encouraged to review that documentation, download that documentation, and fully understand it to be able to respond. In addition, there is a lack of climate management strategy, and so suppliers can work there with their customers. They can work with consultants or other partners, or have in-house resources to help them improve their climate management strategy. There's also need for risk and opportunity management improvements, and at times it's insufficient effort. As Esther did mention, you want to go down the most relevant path when you are completing the CDP questionnaire. More questions don't necessarily mean more points, but there is some effort required in collecting the data and information that is required for CDP, in corralling the personnel and the staff and the executives within your company to be able to have all of the information to respond to CDP. And just planning ahead of time to make sure that you have all of those resources and data available is quite important. Waiting to the last minute certainly is not something that we encourage. Top areas to focus for supply chain improvement. Again, really important to review, understand the CDP guidelines and requirements. Ensure you are budgeting the time and resources needed to successfully complete the process. Establish targets for emissions reductions, and very critical is report year-on-year emissions reductions. CDP is certainly supporting many areas, water, forests, and others. And for climate change, very specifically, company needs to demonstrate climate year-over-year carbon reductions to be able to improve their performance on the CDP disclosure. We did instituting board-level sponsorship for climate management. Companies that have climate management completely ingrained in their organization, from the very top of the organization and the boardroom all the way to the factory floor, is quite important. Verification of emissions. A change this year was that a higher percentage of emissions needed to be verified. And so verifying Scope 1 and Scope 2 emissions per the CDP guidance is quite important and quite critical. What help is available for you as a supplier to improve your score? Again, as I mentioned earlier, the average score for a supplier in the supply chain program for 2015 was a 60D, and so there's certainly improvements that could be made on average in both disclosure as well as performance. Carbon Solutions does provide available services, and it's important to note that any customer, any supplier that works with First Carbon Solution on these services will not be scored by First Carbon Solutions. There is a very clear and definitive conflict of interest policy, and any company would be scored by another company, not First Carbon, if you opt to work with us on any of these services. So again, I'll talk in a few more minutes about performance review, as that is certainly an option that we encourage all suppliers to take advantage of, is to do a performance review of your 2015 CDP disclosure. In addition, First Carbon Solutions offers analyses and more in-depth analyses and scoring assessments, analysis of your 2015 disclosure, so you can get more definitive areas of improvement for both disclosure score and performance bands that you can then apply to 2016, this next year's disclosure, and also provide a pre-assessment for the upcoming disclosure as well before you submit. We also provide scope 1, 2, and 3 data collection, whether it is manual data collection or it is software systems. First Carbon Solutions like to provide a fully automated experience regardless of where your data rests, whether it is in your facilities and around the world or within your own region, and difficult to get utility bill information, whether it's in spreadsheets or whether it's in other systems, is pulling all of that information together that you need to be able to analyze and respond to CDP and other disclosure services. We can help with supply chain engagement as you are being engaged by your client in CDP in that they've requested you to respond to this survey. You can in turn encourage your supply chain to provide you that level of visibility. Whether you work with First Carbon Solutions to engage your supply chain, or you work with CDP and become a supply chain member, and CDP can support the engagement of your supply chain, that is certainly something for consideration. And then First Carbon Solutions can also help complete your CDP disclosure. And again, and equally important is companies who we help complete disclosures. We do not score. It's pretty important that we maintain that firewall and ensure that there is no conflict of interest. And so when you received your email, there's a link in your email to go to the performance review scheduling system, and you have a unique link that will take you to that system. Once you register in that system, you provided options to choose how you want to proceed and interact with the performance review. For those companies who have also responded to water, once the water scores are released, which will be later in 2015, you will have the option to schedule a water review call as well as review your water report. However, if you are in the system before those water scores are released, you will only see 2 options, and that's the last 2 columns on this slide. The first is your climate change report and review call. This is a free service that we are offering to supply chain members only. And what you will receive is a basic climate change report. You'll be able to schedule a 20-minute call with First Carbon Solutions to review that report. We will recommend one recommendation area for improvement per scoring category. We'll provide average industry comparisons and category level comparisons. There is an option for supply chain that if you would like to upgrade it to the premium climate change report review, and we'll go into that in more detail, you will be able to do that immediately. The basic review call, you will be able to schedule that call in December, but if you would like to use the premium report, then you would be able to schedule that call and receive that report immediately. And then other additional additions to the premium report. The cost of the premium report and review call is $750 this year, and again, it provides a higher level of value that I will go into in more detail. Here is a copy of the front page of the basic performance review report. And with this report, it accompanies a 20-minute call. However, once you register into the system, and again, that link has been provided to you in the email that you've received from CDP, you'll go to the system, you'll register, and you will have immediate access to this basic report. You then have the option, if you choose, to schedule a 20-minute call. Those calls can be scheduled toward the latter part of December, and you will be able to see overall average comparisons, and so you'll be able to see your group average, the key program average. You'll be able to review your score against that, again, against your industry, your region, and then overall. Not overall basis, but you will also be able to look at information at the at category level. You'll be able to compare your score, the industry group average, the region average, and the CDP program average against those 4 categories on both performance and disclosure. We will also, during this phone call, make a recommendation per category. What we encourage you to decide for your company is whether you would benefit from a premium performance review call. And as mentioned, those premium performance reviews, you can schedule them immediately and you get a much more detailed report. And in the information provided in the report for basic reviews, you will get a scatter plot chart that charts your company against both public and private companies within your industry. And so you'll see, and you will have a chart that shows where your corporation, in this example here, it's Demo Corporation, which is the green dot, being compared against the black dots, which are CDP public companies, and then the grayed out dots, which are CDP private companies. And you would be able to get more information on that 45-minute review call on where some other companies are, but it gives you a really good indication of within your industry group where you fall. In addition, with the premium report, able to get score improvement potential. And so by category on disclosure and performance, you will see very, very clearly where you need to improve. In this example here, this company, if this company spent more time on verification, they get higher disclosure points because that green bar is high, and it looks pretty even that across all 4 categories for this company on performance, there's work to be done. But if you see one of the darker bars that are higher than another on performance, that is absolutely the area in which your company would focus. And so in this premium performance review call, we will review that and provide you with some insight and additional recommendations for performance improvement that you can absolutely and immediately start incorporating into your 2016 disclosure. And finally, some key takeaways. CDP scores are absolutely used by purchasing to evaluate suppliers. Being with CDP Supply Chain Program and working with the Supply Chain Program for the past 5 years, Carbon Solutions has absolutely seen a change in how companies and your customers are evaluating their suppliers using the CDP methodology, and more year over year, they are absolutely incorporating it into the decisions that they make with their purchasing department. For suppliers with a disclosure score less than 50, as Esther mentioned, if you don't have a 50 in disclosure, then you will not be scored on performance. So it's really important that you focus on improving disclosure. For the 2nd year in a row, disclosure scores have gone up, and this year it is a 60, which should be applauded as more and more suppliers are providing that transparency. But again, for those under 50, absolutely need to focus on providing that transparency. For suppliers with performance bands of C, D, or E, it's absolutely critical to focus on improving your strategies, your risks and opportunity evaluation. You should also look for verification and verifying your emissions. And then key takeaways, help is at hand. First, Carbon Solutions, we're offering supplier performance review calls, the basic call, which is included as part of the supply chain program, or you can upgrade it to a premium performance review call. In addition, we do offer a number of consulting services, outsourcing services, data management services that help not only improve your performance, but optimize the operational aspects behind the information that you need to collect for CDP to make it much more efficient, much more effective, reducing and alleviating the impact of this on your resources by outsourcing to a company that has unique experience in providing this level of support to CDP as well as to companies around the world. And with that is the information that you need to be able to interpret your scores and understand your scores this year, and also understand the resources that you have at your disposal. And with that, Sonia, would you wondering if you want to close things out for everybody today?
Very much, Michelle. Thank you, Esther. I hope that the video has been useful for you in understanding your score and also giving you some ideas as to how you can go about improving for next year. Any follow-up questions, you can always contact CDP on the standard email, respond@cdp.net, or follow up directly with First Carbon Solutions. Thank you disclosing to CDP this year, and we hope that you find the information provided to you useful and helps you to prepare for next year's disclosure.